Karrion Kross is continuing to close in on Drew McIntyre, so we'll see what the latest is with that story. We'll also see what's going on with Maxxine Dupri, Edge's retirement news, and much more. Let's start things off with Karrion Kross, Scarlett, and Drew McIntyre's story. So Drew McIntyre is obviously in the middle of the biggest storyline and feud going on right now in WWE with Roman Reigns. But similar to how Roman's story has been in the past, it looks like Drew McIntyre actually has two storylines and feuds going on at the same time, sorta overlapping each other. Drew McIntyre is gearing up for Roman Reigns at Clash at the Castle, but Karrion Kross has targeted Drew McIntyre and continues to close in. During Karrion Kross and Scarlett's return on Smackdown, Kross laid out Drew McIntyre to end that show. Then the following week, Kross wasn't on Smackdown, but Scarlett made her entrance and appearance to have a message for Drew McIntyre, but they were interrupted by the Usos. Kross actually hasn't physically appeared on SmackDown that much since his return, but the story has been progressing through some great promos from Kross and Scarlett. Kross says that WWE selected Drew McIntyre to be the face of the company and how he was the chosen one when he first arrived in WWE. But how they were wrong about that. Kross says that Roman Reigns was the one WWE turned to when Drew McIntyre didn't get the job done of being the chosen one, and how Roman did what Drew McIntyre was first supposed to do. So Kross is not lightening up at all and is still coming right after Drew McIntyre. Right before his feud to face with Roman Reigns, Drew also discovered an hourglass in his locker room, a clear warning sign from Karrion Kross and Scarlett. So even though we already saw Karrion Kross's return, his disappearance in recent weeks is starting to build up more suspense for when he may strike again. He's sending words, messages, and warnings to Drew McIntyre while staying completely away from SmackDown. So it would appear that we're building up to some sort of big payoff here for Karrion Kross reappearing once again to attack Drew McIntyre in a crucial moment. The biggest spot in mind to see a payoff like that happen is obviously the Clash at the Castle main event. No bigger spot to have this moment than that show right there. Remember that Roman Reigns will most likely be alone again at Clash at the Castle. The Usos have their trouble entering other countries, so they may be unavailable for Clash, and Paul Heyman may still be on his hiatus as well. So Roman has a high possibility of making his Clash entrance by himself. He won't have his usual reinforcements and distractions there if there's no Heyman and Usos at ringside. So Karrion Kross coming out to scare Drew McIntyre at Clash may be the way that Roman gets his escape from Drew McIntyre. There's all these crazy rumors for the closing moments of Clash at the Castle. Some fans think that Karrion Kross will make his presence felt again in some way during that match. Others are reaching a bit further for their predictions and think that we'll see Bray Wyatt appear and be the big distraction for Roman and Drew. They're both great ideas. It'll be a great place for Karrion Kross to finally execute his plan on Drew McIntyre. And if it was someone like Bray Wyatt that makes the distraction, that will obviously be very exciting. Of course, you have the whole narrative there that Roman won his current Universal title from The Fiend, but at no time did he ever pin The Fiend or give him a rematch. So there is a story and narrative there for Bray's return. But the big downside to doing that story is that Roman Reigns will still obviously win. So no real point in doing that story if it's just going to be Bray returning for a big loss. So if Bray does come back, it'll probably be a better idea to keep him away from Roman for a bit and get some momentum going instead of just being thrown in there with Roman. That's the latest for the entire overlapping stories of McIntyre versus Kross and McIntyre versus Reigns. We'll have to see when Kross will end up striking again, and if there's a possibility that we'll even see some surprise returns during all of this. The MMM was a Vince McMahon project for the most part, and has been through some ups and downs in recent weeks. Towards the start of their run together, there was a point where their segment kept getting cancelled and delayed for the following week. Then right around SummerSlam time, Maxxine Dupri makes her debut, with rumors that Max Dupri was removed from the group. Then a few weeks later, Max is back and joins his sister in MMM. So it's just been a little bit all over the place, but it seems that even more cracks are showing up with MMM, mostly revolving around Maxxine. When MMM was interrupted and cut off by a Hit Row musical performance, Maxxine was the only MMM member to stay on the stage and actually love the performance from Hit Row. It was Max who had to pull her away from watching Hit Row. Then in a backstage segment, Maxxine talked with Humberto and Angel Garza for a few moments before Max had to pull her away again. Maxine's response was that it's just her way of scouting for MMM. Some fans speculate that Hit Row versus MMM may be what we end up seeing here in the near future. Hit Row obviously cut them off, and both stables have a woman and multiple men, so you could pull off a mixed tag team match. But the overlapping story in that feud will obviously be Maxxine Dupri and what she could end up doing. Does she stay in MMM with her current role, or does the character realize that there's other fun things she can be a part of on Smackdown outside of MMM? That will be the big decision for her to make that may affect the future of MMM altogether. So that will be interesting to see unfold. Edge has made his miracle return to the wrestling ring a few years back in 2020, and it was one of the most magical moments we've seen in quite some time. He spent 9 years on the shelf being told he'll never wrestle again, and never stopped fighting for the clearance until he finally got it. The problem is that 9 years did go by, and Edge will now be turning 49 in October 2022. Ever since he first came back in 2020, he said it wasn't going to be a long-term thing and he'll retire after a few years on his own terms, compared to how his 2011 retirement was on injury terms. Well, during a recent interview with Bleacher Report, Edge says that his retirement is in sight and that the end is near. He had this to say when asked about his current run and retirement plans, quote, "This run, I feel I've been able to do some of that. To me, that has always been one more layer on this cake that was already tasty anyway. I'm enjoying and soaking in every moment with the complete realization that it's gonna end soon. I know the end is in sight, and I can see it, and because of that, it makes me enjoy it more." End quote. So obviously not something that the fans want to hear, but Edge is being realistic and saying that this miracle run is almost coming to a close. So seeing Edge retire again will be just as hard as seeing it go down the first time. But what are your thoughts on all of today's stories? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on, and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.